Hey guys, I'm Jordy, and this is part 2 of my small series on ULDUAR that I'm doing to begin to familiarize myself and hopefully you on the boss encounters in many people's favorite raid ever. In this one, we go over Kologarn, Iron Council, Algalon, Auriaya, Hodir, and Thorim. You can hit that subscribe button for me. It helps me a ton and pushes me to keep making stuff like this as we get closer to ULDUAR. Also, I'll be releasing a Phase 2 loot prio guide here soon, so keep an eye out for that. Quick reminder, I've never done ULDUAR. I'm just going off the knowledge in these amazing videos and things I picked up along the way. So if you're in the same place as me, let's enjoy learning together. Okay, enjoy the video and stay tuned for part 3 and 4 in the coming days. Okay, well, I think that's very low.
From Tankspot, and
How's the audio there?
In this video, I'll be discussing the Kologarn encounter. There are 3 attackable entities in the Kologarn encounter. Kologarn himself will remain stationary for the entire fight, and there should always be a tank in melee range to absorb the hit. If there's no one close enough, he'll cast a
We'll go over.
raid-wide attack that generally causes a wipe, so this is important.
There we go.
Aside from Kologarn, his 2 hands can be
Alright.
attacked separately. His right hand, which will be to the left, is the raid
Oh yeah, okay. And so then the text on the screen is looking fine. Maybe I move it over here. That's kind of easier, right? So yeah, Kologarn is after you kill XT, you come to this this crossroads, right? And on your left is Iron Council, on your right is the locked door for Algalon, and dead ahead is Kologarn, and he's this big statue Titan guy. And he's one of the he's similar to Rag, where you don't fight his whole body, you just fight his torso and his 2 arms. Each arm has a health pool. This is the 10-man version. There's not a good 25-man version boss guide on YouTube that I could find, but he's considered one of the easier fights. There's no hard mode loot table for him, so there are achievements and stuff, but you won't get any extra loot or any of the better loot that will get bumped up. And yeah.
faces him is the most important for purposes of this strategy. Periodically, the right hand will grab onto one raid member, who must then be freed, which is done by DPSing the hand for a short period of time. Since the raid member will be taking around 3,000 damage per second while being held, and is unable to take any actions, you'll want to just keep your DPS focused on the right hand until it's destroyed.
So he grabs somebody and essentially stunning them, and that person takes a bunch of damage, and then you want to beat up the hand so that it breaks and it frees them. Pretty simple.
Once the right hand has been destroyed, the DPS can shift to Kologarn himself. A few ads will spawn, which should be
one thing that I do know is that the damage that you do to the hands is done once the hand dies. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. The damage is then transferred to the main boss, right? So you're not actually wasting any DPS doing damage to the hand. You're still bashing the main thing. Notice on 10-man he has 3.63 million HP. What's up, Silquist?
Up and off tank. They don't have very much health, so it's usually okay to just let the tank kill them. However, every so often Kologarn will place his stacking debuff on the main tank that reduces his armor by 25%. After 2 stacks, the off tank will need to move into position and
simple tank
taunt the
swap
boss
mechanic
temporarily so that the main tank's debuff can wear off. If necessary, you can assign a ranged AoE class to help the off tank clear up the ads so he can move into position. After a short period of time, the right hand will respawn again, and DPS should move back to it. Its health is subtracted from Kologarn's health pool,
there you
so
go.
DPSing the hand is essentially the same as DPSing the boss. The left hand...
The one thing is, I think, unless the hand dies, that damage is wasted, right? So I bet you in speedruns, you will likely look at killing both hands right before the boss dies to chunk him for the last bit, right? Because after the hands have died and you're not planning on killing a hand again, all that damage is kind of wasted.
Hand can be attacked and killed the same way the right hand can, and will periodically swipe the raid, dealing a decent amount of nature damage. This can be healed through fairly easily, so the left hand can be ignored entirely. However, if you're having trouble keeping everyone alive, you can have DPS move to it instead of Kologarn if you prefer.
This is gonna be one of those fights where
the right hand is your first priority.
he's just gonna fall over.
While all of this is going on, Kologarn will occasionally fire I-beams at a random raid member. These are quite painful, so that raid member must drop whatever they're doing and run away as soon as it begins. He'll continue to chase that person with the I-beams, and it will hit anyone else who happens to be standing nearby as it passes, so everyone needs to be watching for this constantly. He'll usually only target ranged DPS and healers for this, but he can occasionally target a melee. All in all, Kologarn is a relatively quick and simple encounter that's a lot of fun. As always, more information on this and other encounters can be found on the Project Marmot forums at tankspot.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, check the link in the movie details for a direct link.
Project Marmot forums. Alright, so then once he dies, his body falls backwards and becomes the bridge that you take to get to the rest of the instance. Which I always thought was really cool. That the boss becomes the platform upon which that you advance through the instance. This is just a really well-designed instance, I think. They clearly thought a lot about it. There's an addendum that I wanna...
Hey, this is Ciderhelm. This video is a quick addendum to our posted Kologarn strategy. If you're watching this on YouTube and want the whole strategy or want to see both videos, check out the guide link in the movie information box on YouTube. Nature resistance, either from a hunter or shaman, is recommended for this encounter. This can dramatically reduce the damage the raid is taking. Additionally, a mage casting dampen magic on ranged players before the encounter can help with I-beam damage. I-beams cannot initially target melee ranged players unless there are no ranged targets available.
Look at this I-beam just chunking people.
On ranged players before the encounter
Watch
can
this.
help with I-beam damage. I-beams cannot initially target melee ranged players unless
this guy just gets fucked. Maybe he got grabbed?
I-beams cannot
He's grabbed.
initially
He got grabbed, maybe.
Target melee ranged players unless there are no ranged targets available. As long as players correctly kite the I-beams and do not die from them, melee will never have to deal with I-beams. For this reason,
So I-beam doesn't target melee, which is great. That incentivizes melee.
It is best to have as many players in tight on Kologarn's body as possible. Kologarn will occasionally cast...
So you're going to want... I mean, your warlocks already do this, but you're going to want your mages over here. You're going to want everyone in melee range, and then just the healers that can move while casting, like the disc priest, kiting the I-beam on the back. That seems pretty easy. As long as you're, like, baiting the I-beam, you're not going to have an issue, like, forcing it onto somebody.
An ability that locks spell casting in melee range. While this is dangerous for casters, it has less of an impact.
Okay, well, look how much
restoration
HP.
druids who
Well,
can
he's
still effectively use their
he's a
hots.
tank, I think.
Rubble spawns specifically when an arm dies.
Yeah.
The rubble have an aura which will destroy nearby melee and quickly kill tanks. The use of a well-timed shockwave can dramatically increase survivability, so long
At range, not a caster. No, I'm saying if your casters are in melee range, then it won't target them. So you'll stick a ranged who can move while doing something. Oh, okay.
As long as ranged AoE immediately targets and kills the rubble. Since all three targets in this encounter have enormous hitboxes, we moved our melee players to the far side of Kologarn's body, so they would avoid any chance of being killed by the rubble.
Oh, okay,
when we
alright, I
killed the
gotcha.
right arm. We started this encounter short-handed on healing, so we looked for ways to reduce the strain on these players.
Well, Hunter, you want melee weaving or trap weaving, Basher. Well, I would say no to Hunter, but does he silence a melee range?
Adjustment we made was
I mean, the Boomkin is sitting here blasting, so I don't think so.
Kologarn off with his left arm instead of killing his right a final time. This is because the left
Unless he's
arm
eating
can
the
take
silences.
Indirect damage from cleaves, whirlwinds, and other multi-target
The box looks like hell for trap weaving. Yeah, it's hard to
It was
know.
already at less than half life by the time we had brought Kologarn down to 25%. Once Kologarn was below 20%, we focused strictly on the left arm. After this, we easily killed the main body. It's important to keep in mind that
So it's interesting what they're doing. I think he said he enraged, right? Is that what happens? Let's look. Wiki Kologarn, which is actually really smart. Strategy to fight. Does anybody know if he enrages? I don't know.
That killing the right arm and left arm simultaneously does lead to Kologarn dealing AoE damage to the raid.
Look at this DPS. It's 5k.
Timing the killing of a second arm should ideally be done when the other will respawn before it dies. At the end of this kill, our raid discovered that Kologarn can fall the wrong way when he dies. About half of our raid attempted to cross the misplaced bridge and wound up dead or at the bottom of the pit below.
This could be a problem. This could be a serious problem. I bet it's just graphical. I bet that's just graphical. I bet you could still run right across.
Thanks for watching this movie. As always, feel free to ask questions or add suggestions either on YouTube
What's
or
down
in the
here?
thread on Tankspot.com. Also,
What's up, Sigward?
Tankspot donors can download all of these movies in high definition.
All right, that's Kologarn. I think that's going to be a pretty easy fight. Hey, look, it's the Sarth video that Tigward's in Criteria. All right. Let's do Iron Council ULDUAR 20. 100% for Jordan. Don't say things like that. Don't say things like that. All right. Tankspot's Guide to Iron Council. Let's do hard mode. So, for those that are here for your general boss guides, that's great. For those that are here for like first clear stuff, here's something that I was thinking about, which I think most people are probably about. You don't do the hard mode here. Yeah, like Tigward is saying, you don't do the hard mode here. You do the middle hard mode here, because for first clear. Because if you're trying to kill Algalon week 1, you only need to do. This boss has a few different types of hard modes. It has killing the big guy last and killing the medium guy last. The big guy last is considered the hardest. The middle guy last is considered easier. I can't tell you which one's easier or not because I've never done it, but I think from what I've been reading, the medium-sized guy is considered, killing last is considered easier. So you will likely do that week 1 and forego some hard mode loot week 1 in order to get your Algalon key. It's not a big deal. Warcraft Logs has been talking a lot about what the plan is for Brigax. I think the little guy last is supposed to is not hard mode. That's the easy mode. This one will be the big guy last. This video, that'll be the hard mode. But yeah, Brig, I don't know about that. That would be cool though. So Boss Knight, you don't have to do that. It's Runebreaker or Steelbreaker.
Welcome back to the ULDUAR raid guide. My name's Ciderhelm. I'm the administrator of
Here, we can
Tankspot.com, and in this
see it's this guy last, I think is the plan. Because there's a little dwarf back here and there's the big guy, and the easy mode is killing the dwarf last. So you kill the big guy, the medium guy, and the little guy. And then in the medium hard mode, you kill the big guy and then the little guy and then this guy.
Video, I'll show you our Iron Council hard mode strategy. If you'd like more information
Not the chat
or
off
to learn
screen.
more about downloading this movie,
I'll just make it smaller. Maximize this. Is that okay? I kind of want to leave the chat on screen, Kegel. Make it a little smaller. Is that better?
click more info on the movie information box on YouTube to head directly to Tankspot.
Fewer lines.
Also, be sure to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button.
Alright, I'll do fewer lines. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Settings. Messages fade after 30 seconds. Let's do messages fade after. Oh, it won't even let me. It won't even let me. Position. Height 600. Let's do height. There we go. There we go. Check 1, 2. There we go. That should be better. All right.
Button to the right, so you'll be automatically notified as we release new movies. Killing Steelbreaker last is a patchwork-style DPS race with enormous raid healing.
Okay, so this is Runemaster Mulgheim. Here, let's go look. Let's go look. So, Dungeons and Raids, ULDUAR. Iron Dwarf, medium rare, shattered, heartbreaker. Okay, so it's I choose you, Runemaster Mulgheim. Defeat the Assembly of Iron with Runemaster Mulgheim as the last member alive. He's on with Stormcaller Brunder as last member. Steelbreaker. Okay, so I think this one is the easy mode, right? Steelbreaker is the hard mode. But I think Runemaster is that not working? The fuck? Fusion speedruns tomorrow, Tuesday at 10:30. All right. So yeah, you still get the disc drop by doing Runemaster. So that's probably what you'll do week 1. But we'll see. I mean, if it's not a time benefit or loss doing the other one, you might end up doing that just because you want a little bit of loot. But we'll do whatever's fastest.
Requirements.
So this is unlikely to be the strategy that you're doing first, but
We
we're
found
going
the
to
best
talk
balance
about it.
was to bring 2 tanks and 5 to 6 healers to the encounter. Additionally,
2 tanks and 5 to 6 healers. I think likely you'll do 2 tanks and 5 healers for the entire instance.
2 non-tanking paladins with Divine Sacrifice are extremely valuable.
Notice what he said.
During the Steelbreaker phase itself, you can either attempt to kill him within 3 tank deaths, or plan your cooldowns around a 4th tank to increase the DPS time for your raid. I'll clarify that.
So the thing that he's talking about is the last when Steelbreaker is the last one alive, he has a mechanic that just kills your tank. It just kills him. So you want to have a plan for when your tank dies.
3 tanks and 4 tanks refers to rotation of tanks due to unavoidable
I think that with our raid damage, we very likely won't have to worry about it.
tank deaths that occur during Phase 3, but either can be performed fine with 2 tanks using Soul Stones or, ideally, Glyphed Rebirth to get back in the encounter. Prior to killing Steelbreaker, though, you'll need to kill off both Mulgheim and Brundir, which offer unique challenges in the way the encounter is approached. Phase 1 of Iron Council hard mode works very similarly to the normal encounter in that the abilities of each of the targets do not change.
I've heard that this was actually a really fun fight from those that have done it. You don't really tank the dwarf. You do tank the Runemaster Mulgheim, and you do tank Steelbreaker. Can you cheese that with gear score with GS? Kurgi, it remains to be seen. Guardian Spirit. You can't with Guardian Spirit. We'll get to that mechanic in a second. It doesn't kill you. I'll show you.
You will still be dealing with a small AoE aura, sporadic cast from Brundir, and runes from Mulgim that the raid should take advantage of and the tank should move Mulgim out of. It's important for the raid to realize that neither Phase 1 or Phase 2 are DPS races, and they should pace their threat, mana, and cooldown.
Did you hear that? Neither Phase 1 or 2 are DPS races. It's all a DPS race.
We found using a Fell Hunter was the most reliable way to break the rune buff Mulgim casts on himself. During this time, the Steelbreaker tank should be careful not to move too often, as Steelbreaker will occasionally target somebody else with Fusion Punch if the tank is moving. Additionally, the Fusion Punch Dispeller should be aware that there is a small chance for the Dispel to fail, so there should be a backup as often as possible.
So I think that Phase 1 is the same, right? Phase 2, I think that this positioning is something that they thought a lot about. Yeah, Bostonite. I don't know if you guys can see, but 5.7 for a Warlock. And the odds that he is multi-dotting is near 100%.
After Mulgim is dead, Steelbreaker begins using his Static Disruption.
The one thing about this raid DPS, to be fair, is I'm pretty sure this is overall. Look at this number. So...
ability, which is a direct damage spell and debuff he casts on a player.
But you can look at mob HP, right? And kind of extrapolate what how long it would take for you to kill a mob with that much HP.
Greatly increases nature damage. This debuff will also apply to players near his target. Since Steelbreaker still maintains raid-wide AoE during this time, his overall damage
Thanks, Kirknell.
increased when Mulgim died, it is important to take this ability seriously. Nature resistance auras during the rest of the encounter are critical.
Nature resistance
Static
aura.
Disruption will always prefer targets at a range and will only target players in melee range if there are no targets at a range when he is ready to choose a target. The debuff stacks and lasts for 20 seconds, so a single player cannot take the debuff every time. There are two ways to handle this during phases 2 and 3. First, as you'll see in the video, you can have 2 to 3 players cycle in and out of melee range, leaving your desired target at range.
Interesting, the tank doesn't go out for overload.
This is very
He gets clapped for
out of melee
15k, 20k HP.
to be targeted by Steelbreaker.
Yeah, 15k. So like that's a huge chunk of damage. I'm actually surprised that they didn't get hit. This graphic is a lot bigger
Melee range, leaving
than.
the desired target at range to be
Look at
targeted
this.
by Steelbreaker.
That's a pretty big
This is very
graphic.
controlled, but it
What's up,
will
Bora?
lower DPS or healing from any players involved in it. The alternative is to leave 3 players out of range at all times. This is due to a secondary targeting mechanic. Steelbreaker will not apply Static Disruption to a target that currently has Static Disruption if there is another player without the debuff at a range.
So notice what these guys are doing is they're baiting debuffs outside of the stack. So this is a very specific formation they're in, which is pretty cool.
Positioning in phases 2 and 3 is critical. The strategy we found worked best was for Brundir to be tanked in such a way that melee players could attack Brundir while still in range of Steelbreaker. All other players, including the Steelbreaker tank, would be at maximum melee range from Steelbreaker. Ranged players would be at a range on the opposite side of Steelbreaker from Brundir. This works because, if positioned correctly, Brundir's overload falls just short of the range required to hit the raid on the other side of Steelbreaker. Since a melee can still stay in range of Steelbreaker, they will never be in danger of Static Disruption being cast on them, and can focus on interrupting Lightning Whirls.
That's really cool. I feel like this is one of those fights that took a long time to figure out how to do the hard mode, but once you figured it out, it'll just fall over every week. You know what I mean? Because it just requires a very specific formation, and then it's you kind of invalidate a lot of the mechanics, right? So yeah.
At about 20
Mirage, yes. This guy is a prot warrior. Cider Helm is a prot warrior.
% health left on Brundir, we call for most of the raid to switch targets to Steelbreaker to get debuffs active and ready for the burn phase. At this point, we decide whether or not to wait until another overload before killing Brundir, as it's important that the tanks be able to face Steelbreaker away from the raid without being hit by an overload themselves.
Peekaboo, no.
When Brundir dies, the encounter becomes a burn phase. Steelbreaker increases his damage and now also applies a debuff to his current tank, which increases their damage output by 200%, but also causes them to melt down and die after 30 seconds. When meltdown occurs, it also deals very high AoE damage. Tank switches will need to occur immediately before the meltdown occurs. So
when meltdown occurs, it causes a very high amount of AoE damage.
the previous tank can run away from the raid before
And the
exploding.
previous tank has to
When
run
any
out
player in the
before it
raid
pops.
dies, including the tanks who melt down, he will heal for 1 million health or 10%.
So this is where your tank's just gonna die, right?
Of his life, so long as a healing debuff is applied to him. He will also increase his damage by another 25% for each player death. It is important that no one other than tanks die at this time. The first tank has about a 10-second lead-in time before the debuff is applied.
You should cheese it with Earth Ellie on P server. I bet you that doesn't work this time around.
Giving your raid about 40 seconds of pure DPS time before his first heal occurs.
Okay, so 40 seconds of pure DPS time. Can you do 10 million damage in 40 seconds? Mr. F just did the math. 166k. Yeah, you save Lust, Nesby. Yeah. What was 3 Drake burn? I'm pretty sure 3 Drake burns 150. But even okay, but there's a big difference between this and 3 Drake, right? 3 Drake, you're literally facing a cliff. If you don't make it, you wipe. For this, you just do the mechanic if you don't make it. You know what I mean? It's like it's not that big a deal.
Since many players will be able to make use of cooldowns twice during this phase if they use the first one immediately, we choose to burn Heroism immediately. Before the first tank dies, we aim for less than 50% health remaining on Steelbreaker. Glyph of Rebirth is by far the most stable way to revive a tank in this encounter. However, if you choose to use Soulstones, the tank must watch raid health for ticks of Steelbreaker's AoE and resurrect immediately after one so they can be healed up. If you're planning on killing Steelbreaker in 3 tank rotations, have your paladins begin using chaining Divine Sacrifice AoE shield walls immediately after the tank transition occurs to the 3rd tank. If a Retribution Paladin uses this first, then taunts Steelbreaker, then salves himself, he has a high chance of gaining the 200% damage buff from Steelbreaker, but this should only be done if the encounter cannot extend longer than 30 seconds and will not go to a 4th tank. If you're using 4 tanks, the AoE shield wall should be saved for immediately before the
4 tanks is no. You're never getting to 4 tanks. I mean, it looks like there's a pretty good amount of healing to be done in this encounter, though. Like, look at the raid damage.
But this should only be done if the encounter cannot extend
So, like, you could
longer than
reduce
30
heals,
seconds
sure,
and will
but
not go to a 4th tank. If you're using 4 tanks, the AoE shield wall should be saved for immediately before the 4th tank taunts. The 3rd tank also needs to make sure cooldowns are chained on themselves and buffs debuffs are active on Steelbreaker in the next tank.
I mean, like, they're handling it well enough, but it's still like a pretty good amount of damage taken.
Using 3 or 4 tanks, you can make the fight easier by using a mage ice block rotation near the end of the encounter.
Okay, but look how much he gets healed by. He was at 750, and now he's back. Yeah, you get 1,000,000 HP back. So you're really incentivized to kill him before any tank swapping, because as soon as somebody dies, he's healed for a shit ton. So yeah, I mean, I think that you're gonna find this is one of those DPS checks that you're really gonna want to push for.
Stays a melee. The mage will take a static disruption. He or she can immediately ice block, and as long as they stay ice blocked for 10 seconds, they will also take a second static
Juice, for
disruption
sure.
without taking damage. Thanks for watching this movie. As always, feel free to ask questions.
Which is proc Ardent. I mean, if it just procs Ardent, does it? Well, yeah, Arrow. It's. I mean, we could check on retail, but if it just procs Ardent, then you're gonna pally tank that 100% of the time. So yeah, like I was saying, this is the first boss that you'll do after XT Deconstructor, probably, because it's the first boss that you need to start the quest line for Algalon. You need to get this to start the quest. It drops like a data disk. As long as you do one of the 2 different versions of the hard mode. And then you'll do some quest RP. I think you run behind here. I think it's like this room. You'll run into, there's like some shit that happens. And then, nice, Gargalon, sure. And then you'll run to the rest of the instance and do the 4 keepers, the hard modes for them, which will let you get the 4 parts of the key that you'll need to summon Algalon. So we're gonna go to Algalon next, but we're kind of skipping out of order because you won't do it in that way. This is the 3rd boss that has actual hard mode loot. Flame Leviathan has hard mode loot. XT has hard mode loot. Does the key give an item? I don't think the key gives an item, Nesby. I know it does give an item. Okay. Well, I know Algalon gives an item. Is that what I'm thinking of? Is it the Algalon item? Which is, I'm sure, BIS for everybody. Is it this? I'd be surprised if it was this, because it says BOP, this item begins a quest. I can't imagine that this is this. I don't think this is the quest item, you guys. I think this is just a separate item that drops off of Algalon. It is? I mean, it says BOP, this item begins a quest. So that's what you get when you turn the key in. Open Algalon. All right, well, whatever. Either way, these are BIS for everybody. Drape of the Skyborn, 64 strength, 106 stam, with a socket, hit and crit. Sun Glimmer Cloak, blah, blah, blah. Brand Signet Ring. Seems absolutely insane. And Starshine Circle. One thing to keep in mind, though, and we'll talk about loot eventually. We're just starting to get into the loot of it all. These cloaks get replaced by game BIS cloaks from TOC. So, and those will be dropping once a week without fail. There you go, Debig. Interesting. All right. Well, Debig, I trust you. I trust these other guys too. So I don't know which it is, but and there's also this. Is this the same item or is this lower eye level? 162. Oh, it's lower eye level. Interesting. These are the same exact items, but they're lower eye level. So yeah. Drape of the Sky Herald. Drape of the Sky Born. Okay, so they're actually named differently, but they look exactly the same. Yeah, it's just like the Mally Neck. Okay. New movie tomorrow? What do you mean by movie tomorrow? All right. So that was Iron Council. Like I was saying, the first part of the Algalon quest is going to be here. For your first clear for Algalon, you're gonna do this boss after XT, and then you'll go do Kologarn. So we talked about Kologarn. We talked about actually no, we'll talk about Auriaya next. So Auriaya, ULDUAR. This is the crazy cat lady boss. This boss doesn't have a hard mode. After you kill Kologarn, she is a female keeper similar to that boss in ULDUAR, or no, not ULDUAR. Uldaman in Badlands. That you use the Indiana Jones door opening stick thing in the map to open the door.
Welcome back to the ULDUAR raid guide. My name is Lore from Tankspot, and in this video I'll be guiding you through the Auriaya encounter. The initial pull is
Auriaya. Say it with me. Yeah, Zeus. The Tankspot stuff's been really fun. This is the 10-man version. As you can see, you can't really see his mini map, but this is kind of the Ractor, what's up? It's the central Korish, thanks for the prime. This is the nerve center of ULDUAR, right? There's like 4 or 5 different rooms that lead off of this area to the 4 different keepers, and then Vezax and Yogg. Yogg is actually in the center beneath this room. You'll head down there for the last boss, but this is where you'll be returning to this room to get to the other bosses. Remember, there's also a teleporter that you can teleport all around. ULDUAR's
the toughest aspects of the fight to get down properly. Auriaya patrols with 2 Panther sentries that, when given the opportunity, will pounce a random raid member.
Okay, really quick. I should have been doing loot as we went. I liked doing that last time, but notice she doesn't have any hard mode loot. Yeah, Neshin. And her hard modes are defeat her without destroying her Sanctum sentries, and defeat the Feral Defender while defeating her, which implies that you're often going to off tank the Feral Defender and then kill her. Yeah, her loot is kind of doo-doo. The thing about her, though, is she pats around, and I don't know if anybody can confirm this with me. Do you have to kill her to get to Yogg? I don't know. Warcraft Log seems to think you don't, but I don't know. You might be incentivized to avoid her. Yeah, B Diddy, but they have changed ULDUAR over time to be more farmable, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we'll know on the PTR. It's not a big deal.
Avoiding this initial pounce.
You're gonna want to avoid her if you can by just letting her pat by and then sneaking into each room. For first clear, not for normally.
This is key. We'll be releasing a companion guide to this video that explains the pull in detail, but in our group we found the best method was to have a Death Knight off tank drop a Death and Decay at the end of her patrol path, and have the entire room punch up around the corner, as you can see here. Once she reaches the group, our main tank picks up the boss while the off tank holds the 2 sentries. Once the off tank has a decent threat lead, DPS can begin killing the sentry.
Yeah, okay, so no, not from Starbucks. Death's Demise is a really cool title. However, Yogg 0, going straight to Yogg 0 is a less interesting first clear to me than doing Algalon and Yogg 0. Progression for Warcraft logs is going to require Algalon and Yogg 0 for you to get your Warcraft logs progression. And so for me, I feel like I want to go for the Algalon and then Yogg 0 clear for my first week. Fusion is going to have multiple first clear raids going because we're big enough that we can handle that. So we're going to go for everything. But yeah, I think that the harder is going to be Algalon and then Yogg 0. You won't get the Death's Demise title doing that, but you'll get the Celestial Defender, and yeah, she's an optional boss. Okay, there you go, Basher. Thank you. Is it Starcaller? Well, Starcaller is just killing him, right? Celestial Defender is the first clear. Celestial Defender is server first. Starcaller is just having killed.
One at a time.
Okay, so just real quick, we'll talk about Auriaya. So she's got these 2 Panther ads, and I've watched this before. A big part of this that he keeps stressing is that positioning is really important. So you want to be out of line of sight of her so that the ads don't pounce you.
At the end of her patrol path, and have the entire raid bunch up around the corner, as you can see here. Once she reaches the group, our main tank picks up the boss while the off tank holds the 2 sentries.
There you go.
Once the off-tank
So the sentries are literally gonna fall over.
Killing the sentries one at a time. Everyone should remain grouped up in front of the boss as much as possible.
I think this might be considered the easiest boss in here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because there's not a lot of ways you can fuck it up. Oh my god, thank you. Oh my god, a pastry too? Oh my god. I have the best ones. Check this pastry out. It's an almond, what? With like sugar all over it. This shit. Almond croissant. She is goated. I love her. She's the greatest. Any anybody giving me coffee is my favorite though. She just gave me this face. Deserved. All right, here we go.
Possible, and it's a good idea to place a raid marker over your main tank.
There you go, Najee.
Triangle here.
All right.
To give an easy visual reference of where everyone should be standing. Once the 2 sentries are dead, DPS can move to the boss. Every so often, Auriaya will cast an ability called Terrifying Screech that will fear everyone in the raid for up to 5 seconds.
So, like a Karen, she's screaming, and everyone's scared.
This fear can be broken by any normal means such as Fear Ward, Will of the Forsaken, Berserker Rage, and so forth, but Tremor Totem is particularly powerful should you...
Alright. Bear with me. 25 warriors. You won't get feared. And you'll kill her super fast. That's the meta go.
You have a shaman available. By itself, the fear isn't much more than a nuisance. However, it will make several members of your raid vulnerable to pounces if your DPS is slow to kill the sentries. 2 types of ads will be summoned throughout the fight.
Hell yeah.
The first and easiest to deal with is the Swarming Guardians. These have very little health, do very little damage, and can generally just be AoE'd down without too much concern. This purple beam indicates that Auriaya is summoning the second type of ad, the Feral Defender. She'll summon him about a minute into the fight, and all DPS should switch to him as soon as he becomes attackable. The Defender has several random target attacks, including a pounce similar to the sentries at the beginning of the fight. This should be avoided, but isn't as deadly as the sentry pounces, so it can be healed through should a fear come at a bad time.
What's up, Ellen?
When the Feral Defender is killed, he'll spawn a Void Zone beneath him. At
Okay.
this point, the entire raid should move...
So they are really moving the shit out of her. I think that this is a lot of unnecessary movement.
around to stand behind another corner out of line of sight. This is because the defender will resurrect about 30 seconds later, so you want to avoid unnecessary pounces if at all possible.
You're barely gonna move when you do this normally. So this is the defender. It dies and then it'll resurrect and pounce again. But yeah, like Arrow's saying, the tank got feared, but she's got 3.14 million HP. She's gonna fall over.
While all of this is going on, Auriaya will occasionally cast a spell called Sonic Screech, which deals a large amount of physical damage to everyone in front of her. This damage is split evenly across everyone it hits, which is why it's important to keep the raid grouped up in front of her as much as possible.
Okay.
As long as everyone's topped off and positioned properly, Sonic Screech can be healed through relatively easily. Remember that the Feral Defender drops a Void Zone where it dies. If at all possible, try to pull the Defender out into the middle of the platform before killing it to give the raid more room to maneuver. You may need to move the entire raid or you risk killing it while it's standing.
So the Screech is one of those things, well, whatever it was called. It's one of those things where it's like the Brutalis cone where it's shared amongst the raid. So you really want to make sure that everybody is standing in front of her, because if they don't, someone's gonna get clapped. Like the tank will get one shot if he moves her at a bad time. It goes off, no one's in front of her but the tank, and he'll
on top of the main tank, which, as you can see, makes things a little hectic.
Well, One Bang Berry, that's a very good question. Parry hasting is supposed to not be in the game. It still is. It should be fixed. It was removed in Wrath at some point. It's still in there. It needs to get removed. They just haven't gotten around to it. It's not so detrimental right now that it's caused any issues, but it could as tank damage goes up in these other raids. And yeah, like people are saying, your ranged could stand in front of her, where healers could stand in front of her, and I bet you it's still healable with the melee behind her, or you just all move in front of her as it's casting, bop, and then move back behind.
Although the largest sources of damage are physical, there is a good bit of shadow damage being tossed around as well. Shadow resistance or prayer of shadow protection can be helpful to lower this damage a bit, as well as give a higher chance to resist the
I mean, there's no reason not to have prayer of shadow protection on everybody at 100 all the time, so.
Note that this little curve in the platform we're hiding behind isn't very reliable for breaking line of sight. It can work, but it's not exactly guaranteed, as you can see here. If at all
Ooh. Candles are expensive. Yeah, okay.
possible, try to use the stairways around the room. This can make things a little...
These little cats very much remind me of the spiders on Maxna, where as soon as they spawn, you're going to have people sappering and trying to pad to blast, which is fine because they need to die, right? But I noticed on Maxna, even in vanilla, it was like as soon as the spider spawned, it was all hands sapper and they were gone. Like they were just deleted. That'll happen a lot here.
A little tough around the healers in terms of positioning.
These survived like a long time.
Avoided them for this kill, but will be much more reliable. Also notice that the void zones persist through the entire fight. You can run out of room quickly if you're not careful.
I doubt that that's
Auriaya is all about control.
Gonna be a problem.
The pull, controlling the adds, and controlling your position. As always, you can find more details on this and other fights at the Project Marmot forums on Tankspot.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, just follow the link in the movie details. Also, keep an eye out for our companion video, which will explain the pull in more detail. Thanks for watching, and
they got a cover of the Keeper and Nimble something belt. Let's go look at what those are. 10 Auriaya. They got a cover of the Keepers, this helm, which my horn is peeking through, which is actually kind of cool looking, and then this Nimble Climber's belt, which seems pretty good. Yeah, Nesby, I'm kind of feeling like that's the case. That's actually a really cool helmet. Is that the Druid tier helmet? Sure it is. Yeah, it is. The Druid tier helmet looks really cool. It's that little moon. The rest of the set could be better. The tier looks good. The helmet, dude. This is the greatest set. I love this set, dude. These little talon things that flip up and down are so cool. The Hunter set looks good too. Warrior one, meh. DK one looks great. Paladin one, eh. Shaman one, eh. Mage one looks cool. Warlock looks meh. Priest is cool, yeah. All right. So that's Auriaya. She is definitely one of the easier bosses. I think that you will find that she just kind of falls over in most of the in any prog you're doing. You'll be excited to see her because she's just gonna fall back. And there's no hard mode. Notice he's got haunted. There you go. Imagine always having that on your screen. This piece of information is not going to. All right. So do you want to do what's next? Thorim or Hodir? Thorim or Hodir? Those are the last two we're gonna do. Hodir. All right. Morgan says you're a hoe, my dear. Hodir. You're really on one lately. Yeah. All right. Thorim. Hard mode. Hodir hard mode. Oh yeah, we didn't do Algalon. Let's do Algalon. Algalon. Boss guide. Good call. Good call. Okay. Tankspot's guide to Algalon. Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, Algalon requires you to do the 4 keepers in hard mode. I'm gonna do keepers next vid. Well, I have to do I have to do, yeah, well, I'll figure it out. I've only done 4. I want to do 5 or 6 for this one. Algalon requires you to kill the 4 keepers: Thorim, Hodir, Freya, and Mimiron hard mode. Freya and Mimiron are considered 2 of the 4 hardest hard modes. The other 2 being Yogg 0 and Algalon himself. So it's gonna be hard to get Algalon week 1, especially if you're on a tight rating schedule where you only have so much time to prog. You're gonna find that it's you'll get to a boss, you'll put a few attempts in on hard mode, your guys are gonna get cranky that it's not dying right away, and they're like, we just want to do Yogg. Let's just do normal and we'll do hard mode next week, and that'll be annoying because you're gonna want to do hard modes every week. So I would say my advice is to like make sure that everyone's on the same page and try to find those extra raid days or extra hours those first couple weeks so that everyone gets time to learn the mechanics so that you can get as much time learning them as you can, so that every week from then on you're doing all the hard modes. You're not missing out on anything. We're doing 4 parts this series, I would say. These, like Keepers and Veza. Bastard, yeah, but I have to include hard modes also. All right. So like I was saying, Algalon is considered one of the 2 hardest encounters in here. This and Yogg 0, I think, are probably the hardest from what I've read. And they're for different reasons. Algalon, I think, is really hard, or was considered really hard, because you only had an hour back in the day to yeah, exactly, Devin. To progress on him, because after an hour he disappears and you can't keep fighting him. And so I think that he was considered hard because you couldn't just bash your head against him and eventually get him like you could for every other fight in here. He blows a Bazaroth, okay, whatever. You get an hour. So I think that with PTR, with that's actually really interesting, progressing him on PTR, because you're not going to be able to have as much time with him, but whatever. Yeah, he's going to be harder. With PTR, it'll be interesting because you can just like clear it again, right? But you got to do the quest all again. Yeah, it's gonna suck. So yeah. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Tankspot ULDUAR raid guide. My name is Aliena, and in this video I'll go over the strategy that we use for the 25-man version of Algalon, the hard mode only encounter that's unlocked by defeating the hard modes of all 4 keepers.
Real quick, if you guys are new to my channel, hi, I'm Jordy. Hit me with a follow, please. It helps me a lot. I've been growing the channel like gangbusters lately, and it's been great. And I'm now streaming full time, so it's up to you whether I can keep doing this. So thank you. All right.
If you would like more information or would like—
First of all, this room is amazing.
Jordy, Twitch Prime, right
React
now.
QQ, thank you for the follow. This room is amazing. It's got really great vibes. Algalon looks cool as shit. Can't break me, thank you. And I'm just really excited to be in here. Zuda, thanks.
If you'd like to learn more about downloading this movie, click more info on the movie information box on YouTube to head directly to Tankspot. Also,
I really hope that they figure out how to effectively what's the word? Keep people's frame rates low, because in Nax right now, the frame rate issues are like a major issue, and there's a lot of effects in ULDUAR, and it's a huge instance with a lot of things. Mirror of Truth, thank you, man.
Keep up the great work.
So I really hope that they're able to figure out what the issue is, because yeah, it's gonna suck.
also be sure to subscribe by clicking the
Turn up
subscribe
the
button
volume.
to the right. You will be automatically notified as we release movies that way.
Okay, so the frame rate's 5, which is fine.
Just like its 10-man version, Algalon is on a 1-hour encounter timer for raid lockout period. This means once you first engage Algalon, he will despawn exactly 60 minutes later, whether or not you're currently in combat with him.
So notice there are these things. These are mobs that will activate during the fight. I like how she has this cascading thing right here.
Should you be in the middle of an attempt at that time, he'll cast Ascent to the Heavens, wiping your raid.
Oh wow! If you're in the middle of an attempt, after the hour expires, he just wipes you and leaves. That's so cool. I love that. I love that so much. He's like, nah, I don't even care if you're like halfway through fighting me. I'm out of here. Peace. That's awesome.
Algalon is a straightforward two-phase encounter, and the biggest obstacles to this fight are the extreme amount of tank damage that he deals,
Exactly,
and
Rizzy.
the raid awareness that's required from every raid member. He's on a fairly tight 6-minute enrage timer, so having people die is a no-no.
It's a no-no.
Algalon attacks very quickly and deals around 24k main hand as well as 13k offhand damage, so you definitely want to bring 2 to 3 full-time tank healers. Along with that, we also take 3 raid healers that take care of the collapsing star damage.
Okay, so look at how much damage the raid just got hit with. That is a Disc Priest's ideal situation. She's holy. There's a Disc Priest also in the raid. Job. One thing to notice though is in Recount or whatever, this is Recount, absorbs weren't being tracked on Recount. I only found this out because someone mentioned it last time I was talking about these. So the Disc Priest's healing is higher than it looks. What's up, Skada? Is that another
All of
damage
Algalon's
meter?
abilities are on a strict timer. Every 15 seconds he'll use Face Punch on his main threat target, which inflicts another 10.
It's Phase Punch, but she says Face Punch, which I kind of like more. Skada was made in Wrath for Absorbs. Gotcha.
10k damage and stacks up to 5 times, at which point the target will be faced into the Shadow Realm. We perform a tank switch at 3 to 4 stacks and let the debuff wear off to avoid the phase altogether.
Okay, so a big part of this fight is it's got 2 like realms similar to Calicos or Sartharian, where you are dealing with things in the Shadow Realm while things are going on in the normal realm. Algalon, whoa, we're not retail gamers here, Mirage. Careful now. All right.
Periodically, Algalon will summon collapsing stars. 30 seconds after engaging.
Okay, so there's living constellations and then there's collapsing stars.
He'll summon the first set of 4. As their name indicates, they collapse by themselves, but you want to assign 1 ranged DPS to kill them and speed up the process as well as regulate when they die. That person is responsible for marking the star currently being killed so other people know to get away from it, as well as making sure that no star dies right as Cosmic Smash happens.
So the collapsing stars do damage to the raid when they die. And they also leave those void zones on the ground, right? The black holes.
Once a star dies, it deals around 16k raid damage and leaves a black hole on the ground that serves as a portal to the Shadow Realm.
There you go.
These are useful for one reason and one reason only: Big Bang.
Big Bang.
Big Bang is Algalon's main ability that he uses every 90 seconds. It has an 8-second cast time and, once cast, will inflict 110k damage on anyone remaining in the normal realm.
Not that much.
The catch is that if no one remains in the normal realm, Algalon will instead cast Ascent to the Heavens, which is an instant raid wipe. To counteract that, you need to have one person not take a black hole, and instead survive the Big Bang with a cooldown.
I'm really excited for this
Shadow Priest
fight.
with Dispersion Glyph works beautifully because you can dispersion every Big Bang, but other cooldowns such as Guardian Spirit or Tank cooldowns work as well, as long as the person remaining down there doesn't die. Regardless of who you assign.
What happens if he casts Big Bang, but the Shadow Priest doesn't get dispersion off and dies? Does anybody know? Is that a raid wipe? Will he cast Ascent to the Heavens then? Or does the Shadow Priest just die and big F up? It's a wipe. Alright.
Everyone else needs to take a black hole to get phased out before the Big Bang cast finishes. Also, while you're in the Shadow Realm, do make sure not to walk onto where another black hole is positioned in the normal realm, or you'll instantly get phased back into the Shadow Realm and will most likely die to the dark matter mobs. Once you get phased back out, make sure that the tank transition goes smoothly while healers are relocating to their original positions. We have tank healers stand away from the rest of the raid, so the chances of them having to move for Cosmic Smash are smaller. Cosmic Smash are the void zone looking circles that pop up every 25 seconds after engaging the event. They spawn in sets of 3 at the feet of random raid members and inflict damage based on one's proximity towards them.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm rewinding.
Away from the rest of the raid, so the chances of them having to move for Cosmic Smash are smaller. Cosmic Smash are the void zone looking circles that pop up every 25 seconds after engaging the event. They spawn in sets of 3 at the feet of random raid members and inflict damage based on one's proximity towards them. If you see one popping up close to you, it's essential that you move at least 10 yards away from it. Should anyone fail to move and stand in one, they'll be lifted up into the air and most certainly die from
I don't even see him.
Of Cosmic Smash and fall damage.
Peace. It's that.
The funny looking data balls moving around are called
void zones.
Constellations. Mostly they're just annoying, but they can also be used to close black holes by moving a constellation on top of one. This should be done by the tank that's not currently tanking to keep the numbers of constellations as well as black holes at bay.
Nesby.
Other than that, they just aggro to random people and use
They seem to really respect the range, right? Because like look how far away she runs. Like that's
the funny looking
very
data balls
far.
Moving around are called living constellations. Mostly they're just annoying, but they can also be used to close black holes by moving a constellation on top of one. This should be done by the tank that's not currently tanking to keep the numbers of constellations as well as black holes at bay. Other than
her not turning this off sucks.
That they just aggro to random people and use Arcane Barrage. It's annoying, but it's not much of a threat.
For sure to big.
All these elements of
so here comes Big Bang
until Algalon hits 20% health and phase 2 starts. Any currently open black holes, stars, and living
Orbs.
She didn't even take the thing. She just Guardian Spirited herself. That's not a terrible idea either.
All these elements of the fight keep repeating until
I respect her knowing she's not going to make
it. Any currently open
that was actually gaming
until Algalon hits 20% health and phase 2 starts. Any currently open black holes, stars, and living constellations will disappear, but 4 new black holes will pop up in set positions of the room. Make sure raid members either stay towards the middle or the walls of the room to avoid getting phased out when that happens.
So this is the enrage, or this is phase 2, right? Because the dark matter comes out in phase 2, right?
Every 30 seconds, 4 unleashed dark metas will spawn, 1 from each black hole. Your off-tank needs to pick those up and hold them, since at this point it's a DPS race to burn down Algalon before your main tank reaches 5 stacks of face punch and gets phased out. It's advised to perform a tank switch right before the 20% mark so you have the most possible time, about 45 seconds, to burn down Algalon.
Accrue, this video is called this. I'll just link it to you. I'm gonna post this VOD in the coming days, guys. So if you want to see all of this again, just subscribe to the YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube.
Be aware that
subscribing helps me a lot, so thanks.
Happens in phase 2, and also make sure to be prepared for one last big bang should your DPS be slow. Once Algalon hits about 3% health, he'll disappear and leave a tasty treat.
TTR is not up, no.
Good luck.
So I would be very surprised if a raid ever sees more than 2 big bangs. Big bangs every 90 seconds. You very likely won't hit 4.5 minutes on this fight. So yeah, priest raids in an hour and 20 minutes. Yes, accrue, absolutely I will be. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long this fight is. Week 1, it might be a little messier, but you normally won't be dealing with more than 2 big bangs. Do they show? I don't think they do.
As always, feel free to ask questions or add any suggestions either on YouTube or in the strategy thread on tankspot.com. Also, Tankspot donors can download all of these movies in high definition directly from our servers. So if you'd like to learn more about
they do. Constellus. That's the disc priest mace. Because we're not getting Palantir.
Just click the second link in the movie information box.
Belt of the Dragons. Boundless Gaze. All right.
Welcome back.
3 healing. Boomkin weapon? Yeah, maybe. You guys want to watch the 10-man version of this?
Welcome back to the ULDUAR raid guide. My name is Darkson, an author at Tankspot.com, and in this video I will cover the 10-man strategy for the hard mode only boss, Algalon the Observer.
The room looks very different, aimed down.
If you'd like more information or would like to learn more about downloading this movie, click more info on the movie.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna keep going with that. All right. So that's Algalon. Let's do Thorim and Hodir, and then we'll call it there. And then I'll do Yogg, Mimiron, Freya, and Vezax for the next one, and then the last video will just be hard modes. How does that sound? Does that make sense? I think that makes sense to me. Yes, Nesby. Guys, I'm working on a phase 2 loot prio sheet guide, like I did for Sunwell. So if you guys want to see this, please make sure you're subbed and following, and it'll be there. That'll be I get asked about this multiple times a day. I mean, this is old. So please do me a favor and follow and sub. It helps me a lot. This is a insane amount of work that I do and that Fusion officers put into. And so Garctic, thank you so much, dude. So any help means a lot. So thanks. Joe with the 5 gifted. Thanks, man. Joe, thanks, dude.
Thank
you. This is a lot of work. I mean, I already put a ton of work into just punching all these values in, and then it'll get updated with the new stats and BIS lists. These are all old BIS lists, but these BIS lists will be in soon. And yeah. Okay. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. All right. What is going on? Isabel with the 5. Isabel, thank you. Joe and Isabel. Thanks, guys. Yeah, also the Discord will have my, like right there, Brig, will have my YouTube's posted. And okay, so let's do Hodir. Hodir, I think, is one of the bosses in ULDUAR that our raid DPS will go a long way towards making it trivial. I think more so than most of the fights in here, because we do so much more damage these days than we did back in the day. Shut up. I think you'll find it difficult not to do the hard mode, because the hard mode is just do it fast enough. One thing to be careful of week 1 is that it's going to be really hard to know at the last minute whether or not you're on time to kill him, right? So it's like there were a few different versions of Hodir hard mode. There was Hodir kill him in 2 minutes, kill him in 2.5 minutes, and kill him in 3 minutes. And it started at 2.5, I believe. It got buffed to Waller with the 8 months, dude. Thank you so much with the tier 1.
Jordan Otters.
Thanks, man. It got buffed to 2 minutes, and then it got nerfed to 3 minutes. I might have that order wrong, but that's what I remember. So yeah, you want to be careful, because if you don't, you need to kill him hard mode in order to get to Algalon. So the last thing you want to do is be like 10 seconds from missing it, call a wipe, because you're not going to miss it, and there's too many dots and he dies because he's at 3%. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So just be very careful. Know where your damage is going. And Loose J, thanks guys. Thank you guys so much. ULDUAR hype train. I appreciate it.
ULDUAR hype train.
ULDUAR hype train. All right. So let's just do this.
Well,
what? Morgan's making fun of me. What? She says usually. Hodir is also one of those fun fights where you get a buff for doing the fight, so your damage is going to be artificially inflated by raid buffs that don't exist in your raid, because these frozen guys give you damage buffs. So and unfortunately recount is showing overall he's not on the per fight train like he should be, but here we go.
welcome back to the ULDUAR raid guide. My name's Ciderhelm, I'm the administrator of Tankspot.com, and in this video I'll show you our Hodir strategy. If you'd like more information or would like to learn more about downloading this movie, click more info on the movie information box on YouTube to head directly to Tankspot. At the beginning of this encounter, our DPS is focused on bringing our NPC allies out of their flash freeze.
Rezex, you are a degenerate. 29k arcane blasts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these buffs. Gross, dude. Gross.
These ice tombs. Once they have been freed, they will begin providing a series of valuable buffs to the raid, which will assist in bringing Hodir down faster.
So, like he was saying, Hodir is one of those bosses where you get buffs. You get a buff for standing in this light here. So your tanks have a really important job here, like usual, but they have a really important job, and your melee are going to scream at them, because you're going to want your tank to drag the boss toward a ray of light so that your melee can stand in it and stab the boss. So they're going to be like stuck to these beams of light, just begging the tank to pull him over to them.
In this encounter, we use only a single tank with 3 pieces of frost resist gear built into normal tanking gear.
3 pieces of frost resist gear. That's unlikely to happen. But yeah.
This allows a tank to take both the normal strikes and the frozen blows, which I'll be covering later in this
movie.
Bye. Additionally, most of the raid in our first kill was wearing 2 pieces of frost resist gear, and while this did slow our kill time, it greatly increased our survivability through the AoE in the encounter.
Unlikely.
The first and most important ability to worry about in the Hodir encounter is Biting Cold. This is a debuff that will stack on players who are not moving, similar to the Karastraza encounter in the...
So, it's really fun to watch these old boss guides, because I don't think he had the... I mean, these are essentially just VODs that he speaks over, right? For me, it's like, oh, I want to highlight this mechanic and highlight this mechanic, so I cut to those various things. So like Biting Cold, I don't even see where that is on his frame. Like, I don't know, what is it, stack? Like, there's not a lot of explanation here.
The Nexus. Though it doesn't stack as often, it won't easily clear if there are multiple stacks of the debuff.
Somebody's dead already.
Biting Cold lays the groundwork for the rest of the encounter. Hodir is an extremely mobile encounter, and constant moving is going to happen naturally for almost everyone. This is because of a series of location-specific events such as Starlight and Snowfall. Starlight is provided by Moonkin NPCs in the encounter. These are streams of white light hitting the ground throughout the room. While players stand in these, their attack and casting speeds are increased by 100%.
Did you hear that right? 100%. He's got...
As you watch me move Hodir,
32 million HP. That's a lot of HP. How much raid DPS do you need? Let's see. So you need, it's 32 million. Divided by, let's say it's 120 seconds. 26 and 2/3 thousand raid DPS. So not 267k. 26.7k. So how much are we getting now? Does anybody know what our raid DPS is? Let's divide that by 25. Wait, did I do the math wrong? 200 and wait. I'm fucking 30. Oh, I did 3.2 million. 32 million divided by 120. Like you said. Okay, you were right. I'm an idiot.
You know, God gave you something called a brain.
Shut the fuck up. All right, 267,000 DPS. That's with the 2-minute version. That's a lot of DPS. And for sure, the buffs play a part here, but just not factoring in the buffs, that's unobtainable currently. But the buffs will play a part here. I'd be willing to bet that it's not 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Or it's not 2 minutes. I'd be willing to bet it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So if it's 32.5 million divided by 150 seconds is 217,000 DPS. Giga Gary, yeah, that'll be a good point. So look, I mean, they have 4 warriors in this raid. With the buffs, it's gonna be doable.
you'll notice I'm making every effort I can to move him near these Starlight buffs so as many players as possible can benefit from them. Shamans in the encounter provide additional damage to players when they critically strike. Because of the Shaman and Moonkin buffs, it is important to note that threat can become an issue, like Malygos, because the tank doesn't always gain the same buff that the raid does. If this is the case...
Imagine if Moonkins gave these things in normal raids. They would be what's up, hands? They would be everyone's favorite class if Moonkins gave this buff normally.
The use of misdirects and tricks of the trade is helpful. Additionally, depending on how close the raid is riding on threat, the tank may benefit from standing in the Starlight as well. Snowfall is the second primary cause for movement in the Hodir encounter. Whenever you see Snowfall, a blue rune will form beneath this, and this should be an immediate signal to your raiders that they need to move if they're standing
Falcon.
on top of one. When a flash freeze...
It might be a little close. But, like I said, you gotta be really careful because there's other things going on in this fight. You gotta move out of shit. And... Well, Emmett... We're thinking about first clear. I almost don't care about anything past week 1. All I really care about is week 1. Because outside of week 1, it's just farm raids and you'll be fine. But week 1 is when you're gonna really want to hone everything so that, and week 1 we're not gonna have any boosted eye level, right? So
freeze is coming, new runes will be substantially larger on the ground. Players need to move out of these immediately as they will be knocked back if they're hit by the falling snow. However, players should...
I'm gonna scream at the tank to move the boss so that my pet is in the beam of light. Turn him!
Immediately surround the outside of these larger runes and wait. The moment they form into a snowdrift, the raid should immediately move on top of them. This protects from the Flash Freeze. Flash Freeze is an ability which locks players and NPCs affected by it in an ice tomb. In addition to needing to refocus DPS to bring players out of these, the tombs are even more dangerous since they force the affected players to take additional stacks of biting cold.
Yeah.
Once
This is one of those things that's going to be really annoying when you guys are zugging and not thinking about breaking the flash freezes. It's like, I don't want to really... You have to switch targets because the longer they're in those things, the more stacks you're getting. The more stacks you're getting, the more raid damage you're taking, and the more fucked you are. So it's like my Exna to the nth degree. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to open the tombs. It's like, well, you fucking have to.
the flash freeze is completed,
Person who does most frost tomb damage week 1 gets whatever loot they want.
raiders should immediately bring players and NPCs out of the flash freeze. Hodir will occasionally use a freeze ability on a random target in the raid. The target and any player within 10 yards of the target will be frozen in place and unable to move for 10 seconds. This can be
Pep's like,
dispelled with
nice, I can get a
Mass Dispel and
Val in
Hand
here.
of Freedom. Frozen blows are the final primary mechanic the raid should watch out for. When Hodir switches to frozen blows, his physical damage output is reduced by 70%, but each of his attacks on the tank now deals an additional 40,000 frost damage on 25-man and about 31,000 frost damage on 10-man.
Shit.
Additionally, he will also deal AoE frost damage while frozen blows are active.
No, Wolfie, ULDUAR has not been released. We're just talking about the bosses from back in the day.
Thanks for watching this movie. As always, feel free to ask questions or add suggestions either on YouTube or in the strategy thread on Tankspot.com. Also, Tankspot donors can download all of these movies in high definition directly from our server. Click the second link in the movie information.
Insider Helm has
box
40k, 41k HP, and this is in a lot of ULDUAR gear.
to learn more.
I mean, okay, like we just did the math, and like that sounds like a lot tighter of a DPS check than. Yeah, Cider Helm's great. Excuse me. Than I expected. I thought this was going to be one of the easier hard modes, but maybe it won't be week 1. Maybe it'll be one of the harder ones week 1. I'm not sure. It's, you mean 2:30? It's a 2-minute, a 2:30, and a 3-minute version. There's been different versions for all 3 of those, so I don't think it was ever 1:30. 1:30 is impossible. You hope for the 2-minute? Yeah, 2 minutes seems really hard. I mean, we just did the math hands. At 2 minutes, like a lot of raid damage. 267,000 raid DPS. We hope it requires stacking 14 unholy DKs. Yeah, maybe. Their top DPS is running 5k, but that's an overall, Lucky. That's overall. His recount's fucked. And this is not hard mode. This is normal. So it's a fun fight. I really like the amount of movement. I like that DPS have a reason to move outside of just like avoiding death. I think this will be one of your favorite fights every week. And it'd also be, this is one of those fights that, for the people here from Fusion, this is one of those fights where Kazik would just rage at the bad RNG he's going to get because he didn't get a good Moonkin beam thing. You know what I mean? He'd be like, God damn it. Like, this is one of those fights. And then one day he would, you know, the stars will align literally and he'll get every beam he wants and be number 1. I miss that guy. It looks like a fun fight, though. I'm excited. A lot of screen effects. I mean, Gordon, I think that you're gonna find Rets are sad. I don't. I think mages are going to be happy. I think warriors will be happy towards the end of the tier. We'll see. Yeah, Basher. I would not bring you to a first clear speed run situation, Basher. That's for fun. But say something about ferals. I love ferals, dude. Ferals are great. Ferals are great. Sorry for flashbang. All right, and then we'll do the last one, which is Thorim. Sports guide to Thorim. Let's just go. Okay. So Thorim's just timed. Kind of. So that was Hodir. Bora, what do you mean? When is PTR? If you were to believe that leak about ULDUAR, see PTR soon, right? Nesby, we don't know. We don't know when PTR will be. I hope PTR is like January 2nd. That would make me happy. Morgan's in class? Whoever say hi to Morgan. It's cute. Alright, so that was Hodir. That was the first of 4 keepers that you're going to need to do hard mode of to get access to Algalon. You got to do one of the hard modes for Iron Council, and then you have to do that Hodir hard mode. We didn't just watch the Hodir hard mode video. That was just the normal one. That kill was too slow for the hard mode achievement, but I think the idea is mostly the same. This is Thorim. Thorim is another one of the keepers that you have to do hard mode in order to get to Algalon. Thorim's also a cool fight because it's kind of this asynchronous fight where one group's doing one thing while another group's doing another thing, and once one group's finished doing their thing, running the gauntlet, they push Thorim off of a balcony into the arena, and then you fight him which is cool. The hard mode for Thorim is to do the gauntlet fast enough that you can push him into the gauntlet or into the arena fast enough before one of the named mobs leaves. That's Sif. And so you just need to do the gauntlet in a certain amount of time. Here we go.
Mop up the rest. Be sure to NPCs fighting in the arena. Have your tanks run in first and pick everything up. Kill the acolyte healer and then mop up the rest. Be sure to point the giant worm away from the group as he has a conical breath poison.
So, like I was saying, this is the Thorim is kind of in this like arena, kind of like a gladiator arena. And there's this hallway to the left that you're going to send a raid group through, and then above you is Thorim, and he's like casting stuff at the raid as things are happening. So this is phase 1.
Once all of the NPCs are dead, phase 2 will begin, and your raid will need to separate into 2 roughly even groups. One group will be taking the hallway to the left, while the other will remain in the arena to fight off the dark rune ads.
This is the 10-man version. The 25-man version is mostly the same. There's just more of everything.
On continually throughout this phase. Balancing out the 2 groups can be one of the trickiest aspects of the fight.
Okay, so there's Thorim up there. He's you know, Zeus-esque. This is a cool room. It's a cool fight. I like fights when people aren't doing the same thing all the time. You know what I mean? That's like a lot of fun. You know, fights like Cthulhu where people get pulled into the stomach or whatever. You know, that's all fun.
You want to send enough people to the hallway group to let them move quickly, but you need to make sure there's enough in the arena group to keep them from being overrun as well.
And then there's like guys up here that are like cheering. You know, it's like a fun vibe.
4 types of ads will be jumping into the arena from the stands, all of which will need to be picked up and tanked while DPS focus fires them down in order of priority. The first to enter will be a Dark Rune Warbringer. These aren't too big of a threat by themselves, but they have an aura of celerity that increases attack and casting speeds of any other ads in the arena. Note that if you have an extra priest handy, you can mind control one of them to steal their buff for your raid member.
There's more mind control shenanigans in ULDUAR. We'll see what Warcraft Logs ends up allowing us to do with this mob. I bet the mob isn't preservable long term in the instance, but we'll see.
Members. The second and most important type of ad to enter will be the Dark Rune Evokers.
For first clear people, think about that.
Cast a powerful heal. Fortunately, they don't have much health or do much damage, so DPS can just burn them down when they spawn.
I love this gonk graphic, dude. He just like chucks this massive hammer and it just bounces off someone's head.
Heal.
Watch this.
Fortunately, they don't have much health or do much damage,
Bonk,
so
bonk,
DPS
bonk,
can just
bonk.
burn them down when they spawn.
That's so
The
stupid.
third ad is the Dark Rune Champion. Unlike the other ads, these do a heavy amount of melee damage, including a Mortal Strike and a Whirlwind ability. They're easily recognizable as they're the only ads using a Vrykul model, and tanks will need to pick them up quickly. Evokers
Boink.
are still top DPS priority, but champions should...
So notice they have 4 people running the gauntlet here, and the other 6 are in the arena.
...be next on the list. The final ad type to spawn will be the Dark Rune Commoners. Your tanks will need to pick these up and keep them off of the healers, but they don't pose much of a threat otherwise and can be ignored by DPS unless there's nothing else alive. They'll usually die to incidental AoE damage anyway. As you're fighting off the waves of Dark Rune ads, Thorim will be attacking you as well through a couple means. He'll occasionally throw his Stormhammer at a random target, which will stun them and silence anyone in a small radius around them. For this reason, range classes should generally stay spread out around the room, while tanks and melee stick to the middle.
He says that,
However, Thorim
but the whole raid is just stacked in the center right now. I think the 10-man's gonna be a joke.
will also occasionally charge one of the pylons around the outside edge of the room, causing it to strike anyone too close to it with lightning damage. Should a ranged class be standing near one of these when he charges it, they'll need to move away quickly. Meanwhile, your second group will be working their way through the hallway, which is a gauntlet-style clear with a few trash packs and 2 mini-bosses. There are 2 types of trash mobs.
So here are the 4 doing the
One is
gauntlet.
a Dark Rune Acolyte, which is the same healer type as in the Phase 1 arena clear and should always be killed first. The second is the Iron Ring Guard, which has a powerful whirlwind knockdown ability called Whirling Kick, and an Impale ability which will deal a large amount of damage to anyone standing in front of
So there's
you
like
with
a
bleed effect. That
So what's cool is that there's a mob here at the end that's like casting a wave like effect down one side of the thing. It's similar to the blue proto dragon dropping boss in Pinnacle, right? You want to just avoid it as it's coming down, or it'll probably one shot
the
you.
target to full.
Scotty, yeah, exactly.
As you're clearing to the first mini-boss, you'll notice he'll be constantly charging up an attack in one of his hands. When this charge is
The raid
finished,
goes
he'll
left.
send a powerful shockwave down that side of the room, so the entire
It
group
stays
will need to
left.
watch him and move to the opposite side when this
This
happens.
guy's probably in the wrong
Since
spot.
the Iron Ring Guards have a knockdown ability, it's better to move sooner rather than later. It can also be helpful to have someone designated to call out which side to move to.
They pulled the
Once
thing.
the boss is pulled, he'll
Ooh,
stop.
Notice that. Even though it was pulled, it finished its charge.
It
Watch.
would be helpful to have someone designated to call out
Pulled.
which side to move to. Once
Still
the boss is
finished,
pulled,
so be
he'll
careful
stop
with
charging
that.
his shockwave attack and should be moved off to the side. He has 3 main abilities to be mindful of. One is a frontal cone AoE attack called Smash that deals a large amount of damage, so everyone should stay behind him at all times. He can also put up a runic barrier which will reduce the damage he takes and deal arcane damage to anyone he attacks. Finally, he can
Okay, so look at that runic barrier. He even moused over
the
it.
damage he takes and deal arcane damage.
Damage taken reduced by 500. Attackers suffer 2,000 arcane damage per hit.
Anyone he attacks. Finally, he can charge a random target, which deals some damage and knocks them back. He can use Smash immediately after charging, so the rest of the group will need to move behind him quickly to be safe.
So once this guy dies, his door opens.
Once you've killed the first mini-boss, the door behind him will open and you'll be faced with more trash packs composed of acolytes and iron honor guards.
So now you're
which have
heading
a
out
cleave,
to the
hamstring, and off-target stun abilities.
behind where
These will spawn
Thorim is.
continually until the second mini-boss is pulled, so you need to move through them quickly. If you're having trouble killing them fast enough, you can have someone run ahead to aggro the mini-boss and bring it back to the tank while the rest of the group works on the first pack.
Cavis, you're giving me premonitions of the future. All right, obviously. Right.
The second
Ancient
mini-boss
Rune
has a
Giant.
short-range AoE ability that will hit anyone in melee range for a fair amount of damage and knock them back. He also has an ability called Rune Detonation that will root a random target in place and after 4 seconds explode, hitting anyone nearby for a large amount of fire
Ooh, they
damage.
just got chunked.
He'll cast this fairly constantly, and the rest of the group will need to move away from whoever has Rune Detonation quickly.
Someone died. Their DK died. But he's only got 200k HP on 10 man. This guy should battle res him. Yeah, Chesty. I mean, it's lore. He's having a good time. Battle res him.
Once he's defeated, the last door will open and the hallway group just needs to run over and hit Thorim with something to start phase 3. There's a couple things to note first, however. If you've moved through the hallway quick
They're
enough,
not gonna
Sif
battle
will
res
still be
him?
in the room. If you aggro Thorim while Sif is still there, you'll activate the encounter's hard mode, so if you're not trying for that, you'll need to wait until she leaves to move in. You should also avoid the large circles on the floor as you move through, as stepping on them will activate an immobilization bubble that will trap you for a short period of time.
Alright, so now they're gonna push Thorim in.
Once phase 3 begins, your hallway group will jump down into the arena and help the arena group clear out any adds that may still be alive. Your hallway tank should be
Alright, so now this is phase 2.
the first to pick up Thorim, since the arena tank will probably still have an add or two.
So to activate the hard mode, you need to do that gauntlet fast enough so that Sif is still in the arena, right? Antoine Detroit, thank you for the follow. I think they attempted to avoid Sif just there because it seems like they were really slow on the uptick here.
To start phase 3. There's a couple things to note first, however. If you've moved through the hallway quick enough, Sif will still be in the room. If you aggro Thorim while Sif is still there, you'll activate the encounter's hard mode.
Sif
if you're not trying for that,
leaves.
should monthly a DPS burn, but there are a couple Thorims, since the arena tank will probably still have an add or two on him. Once all the adds are dead, DPS can begin to work on Thorim himself. Phase 3 is largely a DPS burn, but there are a couple things to be mindful of. He'll continue to charge the pylons around the room, but instead of shocking anyone nearby, they'll send a steady stream of lightning across the floor to Thorim, hitting anyone in their path.
Okay.
The group should be mindful of these and move away from them quickly.
So there's these like pie things of lightning that you want to avoid. This might be the easiest hard mode, or Vezax. Yeah. We'll see.
Cast a
I don't
chain
know.
lightning at a random raid member, so everyone should stay as spread out as possible. Finally, he'll
What
hit
does Sif add to the fight in hard mode? I wonder.
the main tank with an ability called Unbalancing Strike, which does a fair amount of damage and reduces their defense skill. This can actually make your tank critical.
Just
so the
damage?
second tank should taunt
What's up,
Thorim when
Tim?
this happens.
She's very annoying to his Blizzard and Frost abilities. Right, the Blizzard. And there's like there's things you don't want to stand in, so the Frost the slowing can be a problem. You can root Frost Novas and stuff. Well, hopefully it's with some good dispels that will matter. A lot of particle effects on this fight. I think Lore probably had a better computer than most everybody because his frames are not as bad as other
and the
people.
arena groups perfected, as well as test the abilities of your tanks and DPS to keep everything under control. As always, to learn more about this and any other encounters, check the Project Marmot forums
Take word, link that for me.
tankspot.com for more details. If you're watching this on YouTube, just follow the
So
link.
see, look, he just like it's like a shotgun of the lightning. So, Luca, this is old.
Details to see the companion thread for this guide. Thanks,
Anderson,
for
thanks for the
and
follow,
good luck.
man. Let's look at this. Look at this beautiful braid position. All right, so the Blizzard's on the outside of the ring. Lightning charge safe zone. So this is where the balcony is Oh my god, this is an amazing graphic. 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, 1 tank, 2 healers, 1 to 2 shadow priests. Is this 10 man? 2 healers, 1 DPS. Oh, this is not. This is 25 man. 1 healer, 2 DPS, 2 healers, 1 DPS, 1 healer, 2 DPS, 1 to 2 tank healers, 1 to 2 shadow priests, and 1 healer, 2 DPS. I mean, this is a pretty dope map. Lightning charge escape zones are here. And then what are these little arrows? Oh, this is where you run to. No more than 3 people per any group, including melee clusters. All players should wear 1-piece frost resist, except for the mind-controlling shadow priests, who should wear full frost resist and stand gear. Frost resistance caps at 510. I don't hate the idea of the shadow priests wearing frost resistance, because if they're not doing any actual damage and they're just mind controlling, then preventing as much damage as they can, incoming damage as they can on themselves, seems like a fair thing. So healers. Blue arrows show where to go. Lightning charge escape zone. Yeah, this graphic is great. Whoever made this, Kill Jaden Alliance Provocative. You guys are chads. So that's Sif. And she'll stand on top of the balcony and just cast shit as Crossbow Volley inflicts a bunch of damage to all raid members and slows for 4 seconds, 8-second cooldown. Frost Nova inflicts frost damage to targets within roughly 8 yards and roots them for. All right. Ava, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy to do it if it makes sense. Notice the light well? Pogging light well? Yeah, Apep. I'll do whatever. And then remember, the keepers don't die because you get them to 1% and then they turn friendly, and then they'll end up helping you on Yogg unless you choose not to include them. All right, yeah. So that was Iron Council, Kologarn, Algalon, Auriaya, Hodir, and Thorim. Thanks guys for hanging out with me. Let's give this a nice little thumbs up. We're going to be going over Freya, Mimiron, Bezax, and Yogg in the next one, which will be maybe tomorrow, and not tomorrow. It'll probably be my favorite fight so far, Algalon, sure. We'll be going over the next bunch. Yeah, we'll do tomorrow. We'll do tomorrow at 5 Eastern, which is like 2 hours ago tomorrow.